Hey there, it's Stephen Gardner. I'm always trying to help people in my community to better understand money, to better understand investing, and to raise their income for themselves and their family and their household. And a few days ago, I had the privilege of being interviewed on the Meet Kevin YouTube channel for his investment talks segment that he does. And we had a really great conversation about how to remove limiting beliefs about money, about how much you deserve to be paid, about what you're worth, and how to be better with your money and make more money. And I take him and the listener through a few thought exercises to help you remove that limiting belief. And so I'm excited to share this interview and this discussion between Meet Kevin and myself. So enjoy.
Wow. So in that case, do you, I love the idea of seeing how could somebody raise their income. I want to ask you though, how many people that are coming to you hear that question and think, well, I guess I could, I guess I could get a license. I guess I could get this education or whatever to make more money. Or what kind of answers do you get?
Usually it's, I don't know. Right. And so then that's
not
when
thought about it or?
No, I think that most people in their minds have a ceiling on how much they can make. I know I used to. Okay. So here's a great question that I like to ask people, and it's just theoretical. It gets the wheels turning in your mind, right? What would it be like to make double what you make right now? And most people's first answer is, I could never make that. I could never double my income. And it's like, why? Why couldn't you double your income? Because I don't know how, or I've never seen it done, or I've never done it. And it's like, okay, but what would it be like to double your income? Or what would it be like to add an extra $10,000 a year to your income? It really irritates their brain to have these questions asked, right? But then I tell them, listen, if you can't even imagine having more money in your imagination, how's it ever going to manifest in reality?
It's a really good point. So really, when you ask the question, what would it be like to double your money? That's almost so abstract that it's like, oh my gosh, I've never even considered doubling. Like I'm trying to get a raise of 5%, doubling. Like, oh my goodness, is it really that almost kind of just like wake up of a shock, huh?
Yeah, it's almost like asking people, what would it be like to be a dinosaur? Like, I mean, it's like their brains sometimes are like, whoa, wait a minute. Okay, so now imagine this, right? Imagine that you were raised in a low income household or a single parent household, and you never saw mom and dad or mom or dad earn more than X amount of dollars. That gets recorded in a child's mind, right? And then as they grow up, they start to put limitations on what they can earn. And my job, I feel, is to say, how do we remove those limitations and allow your mind to think just a little bit bigger, right? And it doesn't have to be double your income, but if somebody could go from $50,000 a year to $60,000 a year, for that person, that's usually life-changing money. But their brain doesn't know how to be open to the idea until somebody starts pushing those irritation buttons. So I had that too. You know, when I first got married, I should have never gotten married. I was making $9 an hour when I got married, right? And I can't believe my wife put up with it. And at some point it was like, man, if I could make $40,000 a year, I'd be made in the shade, baby. I'd be great, right? And then I made that, and it was like, oh man, what if I could make $70,000 a year? And it was like such a stretch for my mind. And it was like, okay, so I thought to myself, okay, one of my mentors was a guy by the name of Jim Rohn. And he used to say, you can have more if you become more. And I was like, okay, I've got to get more skills. I've got to get more education. I've got to get a greater network of people. I might have to shift to a different industry that pays better, right? And so as I became more, I got more, and then I got smart about keeping more. And so for me, it was so much about just education and trusting myself. But I had to remove the ceiling in my mind and allow it to start thinking bigger, right? And I remember the first time I made over $100,000. I literally I was like, oh my gosh, how did I do this? You know, like my dad never made a lot of money. He was a great dad, but he never made a lot of money. So it wasn't modeled to me about how to be a high income earner. And I wasn't a doctor. I wasn't like a lawyer. Like I shouldn't have made this kind of money, right? But I had a marketable skill in that I was good at sales and I was good at relationships. And I started crafting those skills and getting better. But you have to unleash your mind. So, I don't know what the average income is in your community, but it's an interesting thought exercise. What would life be like today if you doubled your income? And the answer is it would probably be better. And the second answer is, okay, now how do I do that? I don't need to double my income this year. Most people can't double their income in a year, but it's not impossible. It's been done. But if you can't even imagine it in your imagination, how's it going to show up in your reality?
That's such a good point. I mean, so one of your first things is, hey, how can we make more money? And then do you sort of let people kind of branch into their own directions from there, like retirement accounts, stocks, real estate, business, or is there a general rule of thumb that, hey, look, make more money, get educated, make more money, and then buy a house and then stocks, or is there like any general rule of thumb that you like to use?
Well, here's a good question. Do you work for a company that's making profits? And if they say yes, then I say, when's the last time you asked for a raise? And they said, oh, never. I'm waiting for the company. And I said, the company never thinks about how to give you more money. So if you work for a company that is profitable and you feel like you work hard to bring in some of those profits, then you need to go to the company and say, here's the reasons why I believe I deserve a raise, or what skills could I go acquire for the company that would justify giving me a raise? If you're working for a company that's making money, it means they have money that they could be sharing with you. You just haven't gone out and asked for it. The other question is, if you genuinely feel like you've tapped out on your income potential with this company, then why don't you jump to a different company in your same industry? And they're like, oh no, I have friends here, or my personality is that I'm loyal. Okay, well, when are you going to be loyal to you and your family? Aren't you deserving of the income that you should be making, right? Now, that doesn't mean that someone flipping burgers making $10 an hour can suddenly demand making $20 an hour. The market doesn't work by demand, right? So you have to be willing to ask, but you have to have the skill set to back up that demand, right? Okay, could I become the night manager? Could I become a shift manager? Could I go, to a different business? Could I jump from Burger King to Wendy's or Chick-fil-A and, or whatever it is? Hey, I work for a trucking company and I make $50,000 a year and I've been doing it for 15 years. But if I jump to the competitor, I can make $57,000 a year, right? And then two things are going to happen. You're either going to jump to the next company and make $57,000 a year, or the company you've been working for 15 years is going to say, it's going to cost more money to replace you. And we really like you. And you do add to the bottom line. Here's a raise, and maybe it's 7,000, maybe it's 5. I don't know. Right. But unless you have the skills and you demand that you earn more money, nobody is looking out for you.
Wow.
And I was just going to say that, it's not selfish. It's not selfish to demand that you get paid for the work that you bring to a company. The companies make us believe that. Society makes us believe that. But I can tell you right now, I'm not going to work for a company to build their empire 60 hours a week to be paid peanuts. I'm not going to do it.
Do you think that for most folks, it is a good idea to be W-2, sort of have a job and kind of bounce around and then grow their investments? Or do you think, it makes sense to look into self-employment for many people? Or have you found sort of the right path there or a consistent path?
I think the majority of humans are not entrepreneurs. And they don't have, and nobody be offended by this, but most people don't have the skill set or the determination or the stick-to-itiveness required to get a business up and running. And that's okay. Like, you don't have to feel bad about that. Like, I don't feel bad that I'm a bad employee, but most people, like, I'll have people come and they'll take me out to lunch and they'll say, okay, do you think I should start my own business? And I say, can you go 6 months without a paycheck? And they go, oh gosh, no. And I go, then you're not ready. You're not ready, right? And so you have to be willing to put up the sacrifice. Maybe you save the money before you quit your job and start something. But so I don't think most people are equipped to be an entrepreneur, but I think everybody listening to this should have a side income.
Ah, interesting. So side income from some form of investment or like a second job, like a side hustle.
Some kind of a home-based business, something you're selling, something that you're doing in your spare time. Everybody should have a second form of income. I genuinely believe that, right? And who knows, that side thing may become your full-time thing, right? Like when I was an employee, again, Jim Rohn, I'll give him the credit for this. He said on one of his tapes, he said, who says you can't work full-time on your job and part-time on your fortune? And I was like,
Oh,
wait a minute.
wow.
I could start a side business while working for a physician staffing company, which is what I was doing at the time. And then at some point, maybe this side thing will make enough money that I could do that full time, right? And that's what happened for me is my side thing blossomed and became my full-time thing. Now I took a pay cut to do my thing, but guess what? I was willing to do it because I was happier and I was my own boss, right? But I didn't just like rip off the Band-Aid, screw corporate America. I had a family with kids, right? Like I had to do it systematically, but who says you can't work full-time on your job and part-time on your fortune? And maybe that small thing will blossom into something bigger and better. At least it did for me.
I really hope you enjoyed that interview and discussion between Meet Kevin and myself as we discussed how to remove those limiting beliefs from our childhood that society puts on us, that our own job puts on us, so that you can take your income and your life to the next level. Remember, it's all about hard work, gaining the skills necessary, and then being confident to demand what you deserve. Well, thanks again for stopping by on today's video. I wish to remind you that you are amazing. I appreciate you being in my community, and I'll see you on the next video.